Hey everybody, welcome to the show. Today we're going to talk about aquascaping, and not just overall aquascaping, specifically how do we get started aquascaping, because I'm of the opinion most things that are ever written about it or shown in video are targeted towards very high level aquascapers. Not so much I want to become an aquascaper. And so I've dabbled in this for years. Now, I'm a master aquatic horticulturist, so I can grow plants really well. I've gone through phases of my career, if you will, of like, got to prove my skills, got to, prove that I can grow plants. And then I became, oh, these are the plants I like to grow. And I think that's where most people want to be. You say someone saying no sound. I'm guessing there's sound because other people would be freaking out if there's no sound. Anyway, so I've gone kind of the gamut. I've, talked with George Farmer. I've talked with other people like Frank Wasseter when he was part of ADG, which is the American version of ADA, when they were kind of working with the Sensky brothers. Like, it goes back quite a few years, right? And so I will never say I'm the best aquascaper. I'll never say I was the first aquascaper, but I have been around a long time and I've dabbled in quite a few things, and our local club is a very big club that really loves plants. So there's a lot of abundance here. We've been getting plants from Tom Barr and stuff like that for many years. That's qualifying all the hardcore nerds out there. But you, the beginner, you don't care about any of that. What you care about is, or what I think you care about, from working with, it might be tens of thousands of people, some grandiose number, right? Of people coming to the store. Naturally, they want a great looking tank, and we have to help them do that. And I've learned over the years, when I first opened the store, we set up this rimless 90-gallon cube, and we made it look awesome, right? If you Google, not even Google, if you go on YouTube and you search Aquarium screensaver on our channel, you'll see that tank. After it's kind of overgrown and that kind of stuff, but it's all purling and it looks cool and all that. And what it did was it actually turned people away from aquascaping, because when I explained the CO2 system they were going to need, how much money in plants they're going to have to spend, the fertilizer, the lighting, all that, it became something I couldn't afford. And what I've learned is it was like people were coming into my store and wanted to learn how to drive a car, and I was trying to teach them how to drive a car by driving a Formula One NASCAR. Like, oh yeah, all this, like that's literally $900,000 to buy that, So I realized what people actually want is to learn to drive that car, or to have a good looking planted aquarium. That is actually their goal. And there's a lot of tips for that. So we're going to go down a list here of what I feel are some easy, quick wins, right? And so you don't have to be the best. Like, even in my own aquarium that I have right here, just by adding one live plant that's pretty easy to grow, slow grower, with a rock around it, it really spiced up just that portion. One plant, one thing. It's not an aquascape, but it's the start of something, right? And so I think that's where a lot of you guys start is, well, I want to start doing live plants. I want it to look good. I bought a plant one time, I stuck it in the aquarium and it melted and died, or I put this thing right here in the center and then it grew to be the entire tank. That doesn't work either, right? So let me pull up my list, because I have Irene making notes for me that helps me very much so. So some of it is, I don't recommend CO2. Now, why don't I recommend CO2? Everyone else on the internet does recommend CO2. It's not that it doesn't help. It's that you are going to get bound up with this whole CO2 thing. Like, I bought a magical CO2 machine and everything's supposed to work. All it does is speed things up. So if we go back to the car analogy, it's like putting nitrous on your car. Like, you don't know how to drive a car yet. We certainly don't need to press a button and go much, much faster, right? Like, 60 miles an hour, if you've never driven a car on the freeway, is scary enough. So I don't recommend CO2. What I do recommend is a decent light And so get yourself anything that's kind of made for plants, buy it as an afterthought, not what came with a tank, but go and do any amount of research and pick a light that's designed for plants, and a handful of people at least say, hey, look, my planted tank looks great. That's enough to qualify, like, okay, I've got a light that's going to work. Then you need a little bit of fertilizer. Now we've got the building blocks, besides an aquarium, to actually have an aquascape. Now, when it comes to aquascaping, even the glass box or the acrylic box, both of those matter. And you wouldn't think in the high level ranks it matters a lot, right? Because an acrylic tank, it's going to have that rim at the top. It's going to look weird, right? It's going to give you, you're going to get light's going to push down on the acrylic and it's going to look weird and bounce back, right? So, good example. If I can pull up my thing right here, I got to go this way. Right here. You see that? How it's lit. I want to say lit up. It's not right. It's lit up by the light there on the top of this aquarium. That draws your eye, right? So your eye is drawn to that instead of the aquascape you're trying to have in the aquarium. So that's where a rimless glass tank is why that's preferred. Where I personally love a normal, like Petco style tank. It's got a black trim, hides the water line like we've got going on right here. That is always a problem in a rimless tank or an acrylic tank. And then you get a glass top. You don't have to worry about evaporation. You've got all that. So, but when it comes to choosing the size of your aquarium, in general, your aquarium will look cooler if it is a cube or very deep. All right, so think about that for a minute. Most of the American tanks are long and not too wide because a 4-foot long aquarium seems huge. But when we want to do aquascaping and we've only got 12 inches, it's really hard to get that depth that we want. And a lot of times in aquascaping, you'll see like a winding path. You'll start putting rocks in there and you go, this rock is almost touching both sides, right? So we want depth typically. Some of the other things that I advise avoiding, another kind of quick win, avoid the bow front. It tends to distort, and also you get clamped on the corners. And corners are really important in aquascaping because they can lead the eye. Usually you want to lead someone's eye somewhere in an aquascape. You're telling a story of, I want you to look over here, or I want you to look over here, right? And so if we lose those corners, really all we can be saying is, I want you to look in the center because that's where I've got the most space to work with. That's where, you know, there are some things that will work there, and we'll get into that later, like an island aquascape. That would work, right? But your options are going to be limited. So when it comes to picking the physical box that you're going to aquascape in, if you're lucky enough to pick before, right now you might own that aquarium, but no, in general, the deeper it is front to back, the better it's going to be for you. And, you know, in a perfect world, you're like, oh, I've got 2 feet front to back and 2 feet wide. I've got this great cube. Very easy to play with. But, you know, you might fall in love with a certain style. And maybe you don't. Maybe you don't know what you like yet. Maybe you haven't seen it yet. Maybe you just go, I want it to look good. And so those are my initial tips right there. Get as much depth as you can front to back. Get a decent light, get some fertilizer, and we're going to start playing. Now, the other quick wins I have are pick one type of rock. So that means don't grab a rock from outside, go buy one from this pet store, go buy one from another pet store, get that piece of lava rock in there, put them all together. That's going to look very disjointed, doesn't look natural, right? Also, with wood, don't get yourself a real nice skinny branchy piece and then a big Malaysian driftwood piece. That's not going to look right either. So you want to stick to one type of rock, one type of wood, and you could do either of those, right? You could do an aquascape where all of my hardscape, which the hardscape is things that aren't plants, is all rock. Another really easy one is all of my hardscape is wood, right? You can also combine those two, but when you start combining things, it gets a little more difficult. Like rocks do really well with small branchy pieces. If you do rocks and big chunky pieces, you end up having no room left for plants. So you need to have the branchy style. And that's why the branchy style has become very popular, is because it mixes so well with rocks, right? So for the basic beginner, let's pick one. Let's pick either blocky wood, skinny wood, or rocks, right? And you can buy expensive rocks from us like Ceru stone and dragon stone, or elephant bone, or chicken bone, or maple stone. There's all these rocks. They look cool and they're expensive. You can also just aquascape with, hey, that was in my backyard. Hey, that was in the river. That's over across the way. Hey, that's at a gravel yard. It's 12 cents a pound, right? Because right now we're learning the fundamentals. And it's going to look weird no matter what you do. You can buy very expensive rock or you can buy very cheap rock. And just rocks in a tank doesn't look that good. It's when we start filling in the holes. Now, that's where I think the true aquascaping comes, is filling in the holes. And there's a lot of different styles, right? So some of the well-known styles would be a Dutch style, where it's kind of tiered and you just see plants every level, right? Then there's like Iwagami style, or Irmigumi, right? Where you've got a few rocks and then one kind of carpeting plant. So it might look like you're looking into a field and somehow the earth has kind of come up out of that field for a little bit. That's an easy, good look. Very easy, because you kind of put one stone in or 3 stones in and then carpet everything, and then everyone goes, wow, you're really good at that, right? Because visually it looks good. Think of it like, if you've been watching me for a while, that 3-stone look with a carpet of dwarf baby tears or dwarf hairgrass is the equivalent of any aquarium with 100 neon tetras and no other fish. Like 100 neon tetras just looks cool, right? That's what we've got going on with the plants and the 3 rocks, essentially. Is like that setup is so easy, it's gonna look cool, right? So I just saw that Chattanooga Ed popped in, became a member. What's important about that is currently he is dressed up as Murphy the pufferfish, which is awesome, and I'm jealous. I thought it was genius. He used a shower cap to make the skin look like Murphy. Good job. But back to the aquascaping. Now, when it comes to picking the plants, this is where personal style matters, and don't be influenced by what you see on very high-level aquascapes. So everyone carpets with dwarf baby tears, dwarf hairgrass, maybe glosso, maybe pearlweed cut down. There's a bunch of things, right? What I want you to do is focus on easy plants, whether on our website, whether at your local store, wherever you're getting it from, or maybe you've already got it growing in another tank, but maybe it's not aquascaped. It's like there's a plant, but I don't consider that an aquascape, right? Start filling in the holes. Now, keep in mind, if this is a giant plant, don't put it right in the front. Now, if it is a giant plant, put it towards the back. If it's a short plant, put it towards the front, unless I need to explain a little bit more about layout, because we're getting into the weeds here. So naturally, if we wanted a very deep aquarium, we want to create depth. And if we put tall plants at the beginning and short plants behind them, we won't see that. But if we build up, like, oh, we've got plants this tall, then this tall, then this tall, then this tall, as it gets closer to you, your eye wants to look at the bottom and kind of travel up to see what else is going on in that tank, right? So the other placements that I want to address, for the most part, never center anything, never use any symmetry. So that means if you have 2 rocks that are this big, don't put one here and one here. Put 2 stacked on top of each other, 2 right next to each other. Put them off to the side, right? Don't put one in each corner. Also, don't just put one rock in the center. Now, you can break those rules, right? So you put a rock here and you rock here, it looks bad. But if you put crazy different plants here and crazy different plants here, it won't look like it's the same thing. That's kind of how we do an island aquascape. We build up in the middle of the tank, and then we put all these plants coming out of it, and your eyes are drawn to the blank parts around the island. So we lead them. When we do an island aquascape, the goal is to make the viewer kind of wonder, like, I wonder what's around the back of this island, right? We're leading that eye around. So in general, it's best to put to one side. So even if you only had one really cool piece of wood, put it on the right 1/3 or the left 1/3. Now, for photography nerds and other aquascaping nerds, that's the rule of 1/3, right? Off center somehow looks better to our human eye. I think it's a bunch of brainwashing we've done over many years of like, that looks good, that looks good, that looks good, and then eventually, like, when it doesn't look like that, it doesn't look good. But that's where we're at. It looks natural when we do that. So even though maybe it fits better in the center, off to one of the sides. Doesn't have to be a lot, just enough to know it's not centered. Everyone has to look at it and go, that's not the center of the aquarium. And you can also play with the depth of it, right? So one of the popular aquascapes would be the triangle. And what does that mean? That means, like, if I look at myself here in this big aquarium, we might build, I gotta go to this side. We might build this up with rock and wood and plants, and it goes all the way to the top of the aquarium. But as it, I gotta turn around and show you. So we build it all up here, it's big, and as we go this way, it would go down, so that you've made this big triangle. And what it does is when the fish swim out and everything, you see it. That's what we want. We want to see, look at this lush forest we've got going on, there's mystery going on over here. Wait, what's going on in the open space? And so you lead the eye of, like, I want to travel through this aquascape from either the very bottom or the very depths and just look through the whole thing. Whereas if it's just a giant jungle mess in there, your eye doesn't know where to go. It misses a lot of things, right? So that's, the triangle is one of the easiest of the aquascapes. You can make it go either way, whatever you think. You could do it to hide, oh, on this side of the aquarium I have a bookshelf that looks bad, or maybe it gets a ton of sunlight, or whatever's going on over there. You could be like, that's going to be the high side, and we're going to kind of make everything flow to the other side. The other tip for a beginning aquascaper I have is all the rock and all the wood should point the same direction. So if you have this really cool branch that's coming out this way, don't put the next branch going out that way unless you've really got a specific style going. Usually you'd want the other branch coming out that way too. And because it'll lead the eye. When you have this going on, you don't know where you're supposed to go next. Now again, that island aquascape typically breaks that because everything's in the center kind of branching out. But you're led behind, right? So keep all the rock and all the wood facing the same way. Even though it stacks, a lot of times the rocks will stack like, oh, it fits perfectly, but it's pointing this way instead of we had it all pointing that way, right? So you might have to get out your hammer and get a little, pick or a chisel and break it to make it fit. But sometimes you got to break that stick. Don't be afraid to break a stick, right? I always think it's hilarious when people come into the store and they buy a stick and they're like, this stick's not going to fit in my aquarium. And then I say, oh, just cut it and it'll fit. Oh, no, you can't just cut it. And I want to say, you realize before we put it up on the wall, someone just cut that stick, right? Like literally cut that stick. Because when we order them like, oh, we need a 20 to 24 inch stick. And they go, oh, this thing's 27 inches. Hold on. All right. Yeah, now it's 24 inches. So don't be afraid, because let's say you really mangled your stick. You broke it, and now it's not good at all. The good news is you can glue it back together and put a plant there. No one knows you broke it, only you, right? Or, oh, I made a mistake. Cover it with plants. That's the beauty. We're going to make this very loose hardscape, and then the magic of nature is going to make us look good. Because we're going to pick plants out, they're just going to do it for us, right? So then we start picking plants, and I like to use maybe some of the easier plants that are easy to aquascape with, in my opinion, would be maybe a sword or two. So maybe in the back you've got an Amazon sword or a red melon sword or a marble sword, something big and easy, put a lot of root tabs. Wow, look at that thing. That thing's weird, right? Then in the middle, I like to start using some crypts, and I like to start varying the color. So maybe we have a bronze crypt, maybe we have a red crypt. Maybe we have 5 red crypts in this bunch right here on this side of the stick or this side of the rock. So you got a little like, oh, that's cool. You want people to kind of, think of it like if you're at a Mexican food buffet, if it all kind of looks the same, you just go, yes, they had Mexican food, right? But if you distinctly go like, oh, there were tacos, there were burritos, right? There was chips, there was salsa. You want it so that the user, the person who looks at the aquarium, remembers, yes, they had that giant plant in the back. Then they had this big, like a group of red plants right here. And then over on this side, they had this different thing. If the user, the viewer, doesn't see the different plants, we just got this jungle aquarium going, which I love a jungle aquarium, but we want them to see the layers intentionally that we're trying to build. So, I have to take a drink of water. 1 second. All right. So as we're leading the eye down, maybe we've got crypts at the mid-level. Then we get down to the foreground. When it comes to beginner plants, that's where it really gets hard. Most beginners go, I want an aquascape. And instantly, we pretty much know that means you want a carpeting plant. And carpeting plants in general are short, so they like lots of light because it's got to go through a lot of water to get to it, right? It's very far away from the light. And then, in general, usually likes to have a little CO2 and a lot of fertilizer. There are some exceptions, but that's mostly when people say, I want an aquascape tank, they mostly want a carpet. Now, there are ways to carpet that don't have to be difficult. Things like dwarf chainsword, dwarf sagittaria, right? Both those, they'll just chain themselves out and they'll fill it in. Now, if you have a 10-gallon tank and that chainsword's this tall, that doesn't look like a carpet. But if you've got a 2-foot cube, right, that looks like a great carpet and you didn't have to buy very much of it. So chainsword, dwarf sagittaria works really well. And then there's some more oddball stuff like Marsilia minuta. I don't sell it. You can find it on forums sometimes. Very slow to propagate, but fairly low light. Looks like little clovers, which is nice. Takes like a year to fill in. That's brutal, right? Then there's also Crypt parva. We do sell this, and it looks great, except it's so small, and it takes years to carpet out. Unless you're going to buy like 40 pots of it, you're going to be taking years to get that carpeting look that you really want. So I find it's better as an accent plant of like, ooh, where these two rocks meet, there's kind of a gap there, and I really want it to look like it's one rock. So if you put a plant, a little baby plant right there, it now becomes one rock. And that's what we do. You take these rocks, and people always say, I need bigger rocks. And I always say, you don't though, you just need more rocks. Because if you start stacking rocks, and then you start filling in holes, like what happened in nature, like, oh, let me stuff that plant in there, and that plant in there, and these crevices, they start looking like one giant mountain. And that's what we want to do. So all the little crevices and cracks, that's the great place to go, ooh, let me put a plant there. Ooh, let me put a plant there. Let me put this here. And that should guide you. So if you've done your hardscape right, you've got these spots where you're like, oh, that thing, it's like it fits right there. Perfect. Let's plug that in. Oh, that right there, great. You know, there's obviously lots of tools you can use, like tweezers and scissors, and there's all that. That's kind of a different, tweezers do help a lot, but, luckily I've got some tweezers right here. They're not as good, but they're free. That is, if you have a limited budget, put the money towards plants and that kind of stuff, and then get yourself some tweezers down the road when you've really fallen in love with it and you're like, yeah, that crack right there, I really want to get that plant in there, but, these giant tweezers don't fit. So, all right, let me take a look at my cheat sheet we have. One of the things is, what are some of the well-known aquascapers? So for me, I think the most well-known is Takashi Amano, no longer alive. After that, I honestly think it might be George Farmer currently. He's got a large YouTube channel, very personable. What I like about George Farmer is a lot of his scapes use very easy plants, Java ferns, Anubias, that kind of stuff, right? And he's smart in that most of his scapes use easier plants, so it connects with you, the user, right? You, the viewer. So George Farmer is someone I can recommend. Oliver Knott, I think he's my personal favorite because he brings a lot of new, I almost want to say style or something to it. Like he'll work in, one of my favorite scapes he's done, it looked like a grass field, but then he literally put plastic cows in it. And he's done some crazy dragon ones, and he's done ones with kiss faces in it, and he's done ones with have little goats, and he's always playing and pushing the boundaries. And I think why it works so well for him is because of his peers. Everyone knows that Oliver Knott is a master. They know that guy very, very, very good at aquascaping. And so because they know he's so good, when he does something way out of the norm, everyone knows that's Oliver Knott, and he intentionally did that, and that is now genius because it looks good. Like, his results always do look good, but if someone else tried to do that and they go, oh, you put this big dragon in there, I don't know. But because of his skill level, that's where, like, wow, that was inventive. That looks great, right? So I really enjoy the breath of fresh air where he literally does what he likes to do, as opposed to this is going to win a competition, this is going to place it IAPC, that kind of stuff, right? Who else do we have? We have Yuri's. Yep, we have Yuri's. He's also another aquascaper on YouTube, right? And there's the guys at Green Aqua, which is another YouTube channel. I'm bringing up YouTube channels because we're on YouTube, right? Like, there's obviously like Corey Hopkins. There's also what is it, Jen Reynolds? Like, there's like 4 billion aquascapers in the world to get inspiration from, but not all of them are on YouTube. And so it might be like, oh, well, I don't follow them over here on this weird platform, but these are the ones that are hanging out on YouTube for you. All right, I want to try something. Oh, yeah, that's a good idea. Let's see. Can I do this? Oh, YouTube lied to me. I'm supposed to have a new feature that doesn't work. Oh. But Ginger Graves mentions Serpa Design. Yeah, Serpa Design brings a cool aspect. He will bring in paludariums, terrariums. He also keeps aquariums. But if you've ever played with it, if you designed paludariums and terrariums, you know a lot of vertical, a lot of bromeliads being used, a lot of vining plants. And that naturally, if you've done that a lot, will start creeping into your underwater scapes of like, oh, I could do this, I could do that. And there's a lot of styles. You know, some people like to make mountains and trees, right? Some people like to make a forest. Some people like to make a pathway. Some people like to make just a big jungle mess. Some people want it to travel up and out of the aquarium, right? And I think that's what we've been seeing over the years is what people are searching for is the thing they haven't done yet. So, oh, we haven't really made the scape come up and out. You know, so for a while there was a trend to like have the aquarium off center. So like instead of it sitting flat, you'd have it sit like on rocks and that kind of stuff. And that was like new age and trendy and like, oh, so inventive. And like we've just been going round. And that's more like artists trying to just create something new they haven't done before, where I think we as hobbyists, we just want to go, wow, that aquarium looks really nice. I like owning that. Very easy to maintain. It's not 40 hours of work a week. I don't have to take all the equipment out to take a picture. It is sustainable. I do get to keep fish. There's all these qualities we want, right? Wow, we are gaining some members today. Eric Peterson, Guppy Guru, Chattanooga Ed, Allison Wilkie, and Susan Weber Matthews, and Devaj? I'm going to say Devaj. Welcome to the team. We've also got some super chats from Allison Wilkie and Drew S. Cars with Chris says, I need help getting my wife to let me get a tank. So one way you could try, if she's into houseplants, get like a 2-gallon aquarium and like start pothos or spider plant in there and be like, no, we're growing it hydroponically. And then pretty soon there's a guppy living in there. Like, wait, what? Or a snail, right? That's one avenue to maybe do it. It's hard to force it on someone. That's the hardest thing. If you're really trying to force it on them, go get them to fall in love with like a puffer or a seahorse or something like that. Something that at the pet store, like, I can't live without this thing. That's what I would do. All right. Rule of thirds, I talked about that. Oh, high contrast, yeah. So one thing to remember is while we're trying to get distinctive groups, right? We want them to be able to distinguish tortilla chips from crispy tacos. Texture matters, color matters, all of that matters. So if you have the rock you chose is black, you want to use plants that are more light colored. So for instance, really black rock, maybe dark purples and dark reds on plants don't pop nearly as well as lime green plants, right? Vice versa, make sure all of your rock and your wood match. So when you buy wood, it doesn't always have the same look to it, even if it's the same wood. Some's a little bit darker, some's a little bit lighter. Same with the rock too. You want to get that, it really looks like it's all together. And then pick plants that are counter to that so they really pop. You do the same thing with fish, right? So if you have all green plants and all black rock, you want like red fish and blue fish and yellow fish, right? You wouldn't want more green fish and you wouldn't want black mollies against black rock or anything like that unless you're trying some, to have like a statement. But yes, contrasting of colors helps break it up and make layers, right? So sometimes if you just take Rotala green and Rotala red, and you grow them next to each other, now there's a dividing line. You don't necessarily want that in an aquarium, but you would have that division. And so you want to play with the contrast of colors to help break it up and add some texture to what you've got going. And even plant leaf texture, if you're all using tiny leaf plants, that can look really cool, but it can also look cool when you have, maybe a big old crinum coming out of the sticks or the rock, right? And that's something that I guess I should touch on, is that like the crinum, those are like branches. That coming out of a rock looks like an aquascape when it's a bigger mound of rocks. Where if you put that with sticks, it's going to look really busy, and then those leaves are going to get wrapped up around it. Might not work long term. So think about that, and think of flow of the water. If you've got the water just whipping around, it's going to get all caught up and look bad. So you do got to know that. But texture, very important. Anubias caffifolia, it's got a real crinkly leaf. Anubias nanopetit, it's got very small leaves. And then you've got, swords with nice broad leaves. You've got banana plants, they look different. If you want stuff up the top, maybe dwarf aquarium lilies. You're going to plant some stuff. You're going to fall in love with stuff. And then you're going to go, ooh, I didn't plant that at the right spot. I thought it was going to do this. I thought it was going to do that. Under my light, it only got this tall. Under your light, it's getting that tall. There's a lot to learn there. You can sketch what you want to do out ahead of time. Now, you can also bring your aquarium to most stores or borrow their aquarium. Or if you go to a dedicated aquascaping store, they would have like a scaping box, which is just sand typically, and you can play with the rocks. A lot of times what we'll have people do is they'll bring in a cardboard version or a box that's very similar to their aquarium size. And you can kind of put the rocks in the box, and then you go, okay, I'm going to use this piece of wood, and you go like, yeah, that's going to look great. My recommendation, take a picture of that. Because when you get home, it's moved, right? But then you also take a picture, and then you might try it a different way. Ooh, I like that too. Take a picture, take it another way, take a picture, because you'll forget, oh, what was that one I had? Nope, what? The rocks don't even go back together anymore, right? So take those pictures, and then you've got this cardboard box that you just bring up to the counter and be like, I'd like to buy the stuff in this box now. So it's kind of twofold. And just keep playing with it. It's not a race. What I hate to see is, but I need to buy the tank and get it set up tonight. It's like, oh, well, if that just sat on the counter and you kind of played with it for a week, you're going to find what you really like with those rocks and that wood. And then come back and fill all the holes in with plants. And you can do a sketch where now that you know what your hardscape is, you can start sketching, oh, that would look cool there, that would look cool there. I think I want something about this tall to go right here. And you can go in with a shopping list. I need 3 short plants. I needed 2 red plants. I needed 1 giant plant. I needed 10 carpeting plants, right? And you can start looking at the store, asking questions. How hard does this take care of? How tall will this get? Do you have this in one of the aquariums I can go see fully grown? Do you have this, right? You're going to have a lot better odds. Or if you don't have that option, you can go online, right? And start really researching and look for what that plant looks like grown in an aquarium. Because what you see on our website is going to be a pot of something, that doesn't mean that's exactly what's going to look like in your aquarium. You want to see, what does it look like when it spreads? What does it look like when it starts really growing, you know? So there's a lot of factors to it, because once you plant it, then with an aquascape, sometimes you can't pull it back out. You're like, well, then I put a rock there, and then I put other plants, and now I can't get back to that plant that I put there. So now, you know, maintaining aquascapes is difficult. That's, of the high level stuff that you see, it can be very, very difficult to maintain, maybe even a couple hours a day, trimming, right? Removing algae, preening, just making it look good over and over and over again. But on my tanks or your tanks, we probably just want to interact with it like once a week, maybe even less, but once a week, get in there, trim a little bit, look at the algae problem, going, I got some spots on that leaf. You know, I'm starting to get a little bit over here because the sunlight's coming in. Go ahead and scrub it off, work on it, maybe change the lighting period to dial in algae, maybe get some algae eaters. And really, it's a commitment I find best for someone with few tanks. If you have 50 tanks, having a decent looking aquascape tank is kind of hard because your attention is everywhere. When you have one tank, oh, I want to work on my tank. Oh, it naturally has to be this one, right? So you stay focused on it. And that's where a lot of aquascapers, you're surprised, like, whoa, you're up to 4 aquascape tanks? How do you find the time, right? Very few tanks is a lot of work. So, and getting things like the right scissors and the right tweezers and the right siphon, and you know, there's all these little tools that help you, and you pick up trade, you know, or tips along the way. But it is mostly manpower. Like a good yard, there's one way to, you know, there's 2 ways to have a good yard. Pay someone to do it, or you get out there and you fertilize, and you cut the grass, and you rake, and you trim back the plants, and you prune when it's off season, and you do this and you do that, right? You just spend time with it. And as you spend time, you learn. Don't prune it back that far, right? Ooh, I was too lazy to rake. Ooh, that didn't turn out so hot. Ooh, I set the mower down another notch. Ooh, scalped it, right? You learn all these things so that over time you go, yeah, don't cut it down that far again. That was a bad idea. Ooh, don't do that. Or, ooh, that looked really good. I'm going to do that again, right? And those will always stay with you. And so even if you move houses, your next yard would look good over time, right? Because you've learned all this. Don't go too low. Don't cut that back too far. I'm really good at roses. I'm terrible with tulips. Or you're paying someone with that knowledge. And I think that's the thing. People buy all the stuff, they put it all together, and they go, I built it, why doesn't it look as good? Well, you don't have the skills to maintain it. And that's the hardest part for people. So know that your first aquascape, it might not be the best thing you've ever done, but it should be one of the most, like, educational things you've ever done. Wow, I learned so much. I bought way too much rock, or not enough, or I thought this plant was going to look great, and it didn't, you know? Or, oh, I thought this was going to do it, and it does. Okay, good. I can do that again. And that's what you should look at it. And after, I would say, like a year, right? Maybe at 6 months, all right, it's starting to look pretty good. At 8 months, all right, really starting to get dialed in. By a year, it's really grown in. You've got your trimming down. You've got fertilizing down. You've got algae down. You've got all that kind of really starting to be dialed in. And then if you use like an ADA soil, you get to last about a year. Then you got to redo it, right? But if you've done a more sustainable setup, you can go much, much longer, which is nice. All right, we've got a couple of questions rolling in. I grew some plants out in my 300-gallon guppy pond. I want to bring them in. There is a 5-degree temperature difference. Will that kill them? Shouldn't. You know, like plants we get will come from Florida a lot of times. They'll be way hotter than what we keep them in. And then sometimes they're even kept in a fridge before we get them. So 5 degrees shouldn't be a big difference for you. But that's a good point. You know, don't try to do a crazy good aquascape with 85-degree water. A lot of plants just won't handle that. Algae control in a crayfish tank? Oof, that's hard. Mostly crayfish will kind of eat some algae, but crayfish also attack fish. So more water changes would be a way I might attack that. And what do I have? They'll eat snails. What could you do? I don't like to use chemicals if I can help it. Maybe try like a Florida flagfish. They're pretty agile, but crayfish might get them. All right. Yeah, there are some books that was something we want to touch on, and that would be like Dennerley has a bunch of, they call them books. I think they're more like magazines that help with plants, help with aquascaping. Let me grab some actually real quick because I know I've got them on the shelf. These are all the books I wish I had time to read. Oh. I wish books weren't so expensive either. This book right here is not in English, but it's a very good book, and it's by Oliver Knott, Chris Lukup, the Shrimp King, and the good news is, so this is kind of that island aquascape, by the way. Let me see. Let me pull up my thing here, because it's kind of got, you know, nothing on the sides, and you know, it's got all the rocks are facing the same way, right? And all the sticks are pointing up and out of the water, big style for a very long time. But you can get a lot of inspiration. You don't have to be able to read German to get what they're trying to show. Like in here, they're showing a basic aquascape, which I know you guys can't really see great, but they're putting in substrate, they're starting to place wood and rock, and you can kind of just follow the picture and go, oh, I see how they created that. And they've got tons of different layouts in here for you guys to get inspiration, kind of copy. Dwarf CPO, the Mexican orange crayfish with ram's horn snails. And this book, if it was in English, would be amazing, but it lays out what creatures, you know, so they've got some crystal shrimp, amano shrimp, nerite snails, autosynclus, gold ring danios. They're going to use some HC Cuba, which is a carpeting plant. They've got ceru stone, and they've got aquatic soil. And they had ember tetras, and that made this scape, right? So they showed you everything, and then it ended up being this scape, which was called Small World, 72 liters, which is 18 gallons? Is that right? Something like that. And they've got the whole step-by-step. So this is a great book, just not in English, unfortunately. But a lot of time and effort went into these books, or these scapes in this book. So that's why I do like this book, but it is expensive. I want to say it's probably like 50 bucks. It's 30 euros, so it's probably like 50 bucks. I don't know. But I'm lucky to have one signed, at least by Chris. I got to get it signed by Oliver as well. And then you can start going, I don't know if these, like this is a book I got from Heiko Blair. I supported one of his projects. But you can start looking into actual nature for inspiration. Let's see if there's any good underwater shots here. I'm mostly into the fish, so yeah, you can start seeing some of the wild shots there, and then even the tree banks. Let's see if I can find something better though. I want to illustrate my points more with nature. Well, I guess that was a good shot for like a Serpa design. So you can see in this shot in Nicaragua, you can see all these epiphyte plants, just like Anubias and Java ferns. You know, you'd have bromeliads and stuff growing on the wood, and this is what we're trying to do. With aquascaping, we're trying to mimic nature and just put it underwater. So, yeah, that's a good example, I would say. Cool book, though. I haven't read it. So this book's all about biotopes, by the way. So what fish to put together with what plants, how to do it, and I actually supported their project where they want to make an app to do that. And then there's this book here, Chris Lukup, and Stefan Hummel, who is the plant hunter. That guy has found a ton of plants, but this is where they've gone and they've looked at plants in the wild. You know, that's legit. That's how that plant, it looks like an algae. But you can start seeing, you know, here we go with a bunch of sword plants, right? That's just a sea of sword plants, really. This is what Brazil looks like. You've got some of that wood. And again, stuff growing up on that wood, even in nature. Yeah, it's down below as well. Yeah, I don't know what, this is just like, just rocks and algae pretty much. Is it in English? Yeah, the limestone rocks with their sharp edges provide many fish with grazing grounds, is what that says. But yes, you know, there's Stefan looking for plants, and you can kind of see, I know the glare is bad here, but this is what's all around it. You're trying to create that in your aquarium. And this is, what are they, Wasserwelten? I don't know how to say it correctly like they would, but this should be available online as well from Dennerley. This is another €30 book. But I wanted to try one of that because people always say, like, why are there no books for me to buy, that type of stuff, and there's not that many books being made. Chris Lukup does this out of wanting to make sure there are still books in the hobby, but there's not a lot of money to be made. Like, shipping this book is pretty awkward, but their magazines are like miniature versions of this, and we were able to sell them for like 20 to 25 bucks. I think we're sold out now. Maybe a few left in the store. But other places for resources would be like the Planet Tank forums, planettank.net, Aquarium Plant Central, YouTube videos. There's the ADA, or not ADA, AGA, Aquatic Gardeners Association. They've got a monthly, it's in my house. Our picture was in it because we were at the AGA convention as a platinum sponsor. So there's that kind of stuff. Then there's, you know, the rounds of IAPLC, which is International Aquatic Plant Layout Contest. There's other competitions. You'll see some of the content. I wish it did better on our channel. There are some aquascaping competitions that we filmed. They never did well. But I'll be in China next month, and there'll be a big aquascaping competition there. And yeah, you know, there's groups too, like Aqua Girls Rock. There's teams, you know. So yeah, the resources are out there. Getting started is the hardest part, and not getting discouraged. Those are the hard parts, I think. Because it's really easy to drop a bunch of money and not do very well. And then, especially if you don't have a good aquascaping store. A fully carpeted tank considered heavily planted? That, I don't know. Yes? I don't know how to answer that. Because, like, if it's a full carpet door baby tiers, I mean, that's a lot of plants, but is it heavily planted? And I guess it depends on the context. If we're relying on a heavily planted tank to consume all the waste for a group of fish, maybe not. But if it's every square inch covered, I'd say, yeah, it's all right. Yeah. I would love to have a buy these plants, put them like this hardness and water temp kind of template to follow. That would be the, so if you're looking for that and you can read German, that's this book. That's what they've done. They literally have gone scape by scape. And they go, do you want to build this? This is how to build it and how to keep it. They're even teaching you how to make, like on this page, how to make moss on a rock, right? And so they're doing, let me see, I can make sure I give you the right view here. They're also showing you, this is a valley scape, so we've made a V. So it's a different triangle, right? Comes down, different triangle. You can see they had the sketch here of what they wanted to do, kind of high up on both sides. But yeah, I mean, even if you can't read it, you can, you know, there's arrows. You're like, oh, I see. So you can see here, this is the scape, right? All these pieces of slate came from this drawing of like, oh, I get it. All of them are facing the same way, right? Then you've basically got all this moss, and then Java and needle leaf in the back. Real simple, easy scape. Almost anyone could do that. Does this only use one plant? Let's see. I think this is one plant. So this has what they call maple leaf stone, kind of a big chunk there, smaller chunk, and a little bit of wood, right? All of this plant is all pearlweed. So we sell it on our website, and you're going, oh, that's pearlweed? Yes, cut it down. Oh, that's pearlweed? Yes, let it grow tall. And you can do an easy scape like that. It's one plant. And yet, wow, it looks like you've done a whole lot, but really you just planted one thing. So, not that hard to pull off. You know, here's an origami scape. Here's the picture. And then here's how it came to be. And this looks like tons of, well, there's a little bit of a nubia or glosso down here. And then it's lots of, I think UG, which I can't remember the name, not shortened that way. And then some hair grass in the back. But yeah, I mean, these books are nice to have around. You know, this is a very famous picture. I think it's the cover of the second Takashi Amano book, which I have those as well. I think they're at the store though, so like at our store we have books that people can go look at and that kind of stuff. You can't buy them anymore, so we can't sell them. But yeah, all right. We've got some super chats to answer. Good medium to low light plants that can go with a bonsai. Also, favorite moss for bonsai canopy. So what they mean is the bonsai, which is like a spider root. A lot of times they're fabricated, sometimes they're not. But the moss for the bonsai, I guess is how you would actually say it. You know, a nice Christmas moss will give you that swooping down. But really, you can do almost anything. Siswasertang, coral moss. Fine, like a flame moss grows up, so I wouldn't do that one. But most mosses look pretty good. It's all in the trimming of it. And then as far as the plants to go with it, I would do lots of crypts. Maybe a crypt parva carpet or, you know, some red crypts in there. All right. Lola, what do I do when my Amanos have algae and supplement of foodie yet go after the crypt Wendeti even though it's thriving? I haven't witnessed that myself. So what I usually see is when a snail and shrimp, they start preying on things that we think are thriving, they're actually starting to die, or another fish has made a hole in it and then it knows it's going to die, so it eats it. So my initial thing would be I'd really be looking into any kind of nutrient deficiencies first. I mean, you could just have like, oh man, I've got rogue Amano shrimp and they all decide to eat my plants, which is bizarre and I've never seen it. After that, you would just have to swap them out if they continue to do that. But I've never seen that happen. You know, even when we have like 1,000, well, we don't have 1,000, but we'll have 300 Amano shrimp in a tank, and I can take plants covered in algae and they'll clean it up within an hour, right? So it seems like whenever I read stuff where it's like, that doesn't make sense. In my mind, I go, we just don't have all the information. We're overlooking something. Is it there's not enough calcium in the water? Is it there's a predator? Like, what is it about this setup that is causing abnormal behavior here? So I would keep looking into that. Would trim Miramon moss balls work to make a bonsai? You can do it, but the Claudophora algae gets a little unruly as it kind of breaks off. It forms other algae, but yes, definitely can be done. You can even carpet with it, technically. All right, Eric Peterson says, I have a spawning pair of German blue rams. Eggs turn white, not fungus. Then they get eaten by the parents afterwards. Why am I not having success? The tank parameters are 84 degrees, 6.5 pH, NH3, NO2, NO3. Basically, water parameters look great. So it sounds like you have a male that's not fertilizing because they're just turning white, which is usually unfertilized. They're not fungusing. Why would that be? I mean, 84 is a little bit low. Like Dean uses 86 typically to breed them. I don't think they're already laying, so I don't think that's your problem. What could be? I mean, this is assuming, right, that the male's large enough and he's getting enough to eat and all that. Like, he has to produce the milt and everything. So sometimes you can have a tank where these two are breeding, but this third male is actually getting all the food, and so technically you can't make the milt. So I would try that. Or not try it, but I would look into, you know, or try a different pair, but the water parameters look good enough. Like, they're spawning, you should. Yeah, because they're not fungusing, so I think they're just not getting fertilized. All right. I have went to room subtropical temperatures. I'm afraid I've killed my Malaysian trumpet snails. Not seeing many. Could they live in the substrate hibernating? Yes. I would not worry about that, James. I've had substrate in a bucket sitting in my garage where it's frozen before, intentionally to kill off the Malaysian trumpet snails. Put the substrate in a different tank. Snails lived like there was nothing wrong. We've also seen substrate sit for like 2 years. Customer brings it in. Malaysian trumpet snails still alive. It's insane. So I don't think, like, if you're not freezing to death, those snails are just fine, honestly. I wish it was that easy to get rid of those things. I mean, I love that snail, but for the people that want to get rid of them, it's really hard to get rid of them. Riverlife says, I used a root gel capsule in substrate, and now I can't get rid of ammonia. Is it related? Certainly could be, Riverlife, especially if you used one that was based off of Osmocote. So, like, ours, for instance, are not. It's clay and dirt and that kind of stuff. But, like, if you buy, I don't know what else to call it other than, like, generic root tabs, right? Like, a lot of eBay sellers, Aquabid, all that, like, home hobbyists will be like, I'm going to make root tabs. And they'll be filled with Osmocote. If that gets into the water column, it's a crazy amount of ammonia. You got to do water change, 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 water change. Like a lot. And then more and more and more and more. Like it's really bad. But most of the other things like a CChem Flourish root tab, an API root tab, my root tabs, probably lots of other people's root tabs, they're not really ammonia based. So you shouldn't be having that problem. I've had root tabs like a CChem one get uprooted before by like a earth eater. And it just covers everything in like a black layer of gunk, but no ammonia spike. So I'm guessing it's that type, but you know, the important part with Osmocote is that it has to be under that substrate. If it gets out, very dangerous. And that's why I personally don't recommend it, because it's only a matter of time till one corridor digs too deep or something like that. And I would say like 50-50. 50% of the people, like, I love Osmocote, never had a problem. Then 50% like, oh my God, it's always a bloodbath when I try it. So those odds are way too high for me to ever give that recommendation. So just know that it's like, whew, you know. Yeah, someone says Osmocote caps are great if you want green water. Like, there's definitely people that love them, and I'm a guy that's used them. I never loved them, though. I was like, yeah, I guess. But I never set up, like, the Osmocote factory, right? And like made my own, like a ton of them. What do I think of the CChem ammonia alert? I think they're a good, like, general alert. They're not super accurate, but when ammonia rises up quite a bit, you're like, ooh, oh, draw my attention. They can be useful for, especially if you're new to an aquarium or you're like in a situation where maybe you leave, like you're on vacation, you want someone to watch out for ammonia or something. Yeah. Can you snip the top of jungle valve without the entire leaf dying? Yes and no. Sometimes it doesn't bother it. Other times, kills it. I am a guy that routinely will trim valve, and I don't seem to have problems. It really pushes forward. But I definitely have had times where we trim it back and it doesn't do well either. So, yeah. I err on the side of yes, you can trim it. If you got a bunch of it, go trim a little bit, see how it does, and not just like, I trimmed it all, and then it all died. Corey's horrible, right? All right, let's look into some of my notes here. I know, I got to tell you guys about a sale. I got all kinds of stuff, right? If I can find my notes. First, if you haven't subscribed and it's your first time watching, or you've watched 700 videos, it's time to subscribe. The time is now. If you haven't become a member yet, that's fine, that's cool. But you are missing, from time to time, some behind-the-scenes content. Community posts here, community posts there, little video here, little video there. Nothing critical. But if you want that extra, that extra stuff, consider it. I appreciate it. The sale we have going on until tomorrow night at midnight is buy a shirt or a hoodie, which I'm really bad at sales, otherwise I'd have any of those to show you, and you get a free bottle of Easy Green, which I don't even have near me. I have a bottle of Easy Iron, which is not what you get free, but it would be similar to this, and that would be a great fertilizer for your aquarium. But if you're watching this in the future, that sale is no longer valid. look for the new sale. And you get new sales by signing up on our website. What do you have to do? Make an account. That's all you got to do. Once you make an account, you put your email in, you put in a password. From then on, we will send you our blog posts, we'll send you our sales we do, and if you ever get fed up, just click the unsubscribe button. Don't worry, you won't get them anymore. It's that easy. And we're finding, we've got basically about 45,000 people that really enjoy that system of getting our blog posts and that kind of stuff. So I recommend it. What else we got? Do I have any upcoming events? Ooh, you guys can help me crowdsource this a little bit. I'm going to be in the UK basically the first weekend of December. I have to meet with some business people, and then I've kind of got that weekend, and I'm either thinking about flying out to Germany to hang out with Chris Lukup for a couple days, which is still like a 4-hour, maybe not a 4-hour flight, but it's like a 4-hour drive. Or doing a meetup while I'm in the UK, but I don't know enough to be like, I should do it at this store, or you should do it in this city, or anything like that. So if you're from there and you're watching this, probably not right now, because it's not a good time, but let me know where a good place you think to do it would be. I can't promise anything, but I can reach out to maybe a store owner or something like that, be like, hey, do you want to do a Saturday thing? And they'll say yes or no, I don't know. So possibly the UK. Any issues with a panda cories and a full carpet? I wouldn't add the panda cories until your carpet is nice and lush. So if you've got, if there's barely growing in, don't add the cories, they're going to dig it up. But once it's entrenched, let me find something that's entrenched. Of course, nothing. So I would not add it at this stage, right? So this stage, I feel they would still dig it up because there's too much bare, open substrate. So I would not add it at that stage. But, that's mighty convenient. So 20 pages later, so I would not add it at this stage. This is Marsillia minuta, by the way. At this stage, you see where it's full-on carpeted. There, you can't get to the substrate. You would then be safe to add the CORYDORAS then. So that would be the difference on where I would or wouldn't add them. Kevin Long says, thank you. Thank you. And somehow I remember seeing your name, reading it, and you were asking maybe it was if I read them or if I could see your question. The answer is yes, but I can't remember. I specifically remember your avatar and your name, and I don't remember what the question was. Otherwise, I would answer it. But I was thinking about it. So, as my wife says, there's 1,000 people watching. Go ahead and hit that like button. I agree. There's too many books over here. Oof. I'm from Holland. You were saying Germany. Saying Germany there is the biggest animal store in Europe called Zoo Zojak? Yes, Chris Lukup wants to take me there. He's friends with the guy that owns it. I don't know. So I think if I don't go to Germany at this trip, I'll be in Germany for Interzoo 2020, which is in April. So I plan to go to Germany for sure. I want to hit France because I want to see Nico Shrimp. There's a few things I want to see. So I'm going to be around Europe a little bit. It might be maybe a 10-day trip or something. So. Ask George Farmer to meet in the UK? I could, yeah. I haven't specifically reached out. I just finally, literally today, got the dates for the meetup. We go to a WeWork space and all that. We meet with the company and all that kind of stuff. So I just got the dates. I didn't want to reach out to anyone because I hate when people do that to me, right? They say I've got a thing that might be coming up at a certain time next year. Do you have a good idea? And it's all right, let's get a little more dialed in instead of putting work in. I don't want to ask George, be hey, could you ask the store? Then he asks me oh, I'm not going. Sorry. So we're just hit that point. Do rocks break the barbels off CORYDORAS? No, they shouldn't. Shouldn't be a problem. Crypt Parva, highlight or CO2? I mean, it could have both of those, but typically it can go low to medium light and without CO2. Giving it highlight and CO2 speeds it up is all. Yeah. It's a good plant. Would Synodontis be a good choice for plant tank? Maybe like the Petricolas, but not some of the bigger ones, I don't think. Over time, does EcoComplete raise nitrates? If it holds my ferts so well, maybe if it's saturated? I've never witnessed it happen. Anything's possible, but I've used a lot of EcoComplete in my time, and never seen it happen. But at the same time, I think you'd only see that happen if you like didn't have plants. And EcoComplete people pretty much always have plants. So, yeah. Is that my favorite fish tank behind me? Probably not. Usually this tank is just a source of eternal frustration because it's on the live streams. Every day someone's like, that fish looks like it's sick. I don't like the fish you're keeping. Why don't you keep the fish I like? My favorite tank right now is probably, I say this week it'd be my turtle tank at the moment. They're really getting up there and basking, which shows me I need to get their lay box ready. And I spend a lot of time with the ponds. I just put some shrimp in a pond. I ordered fish for the ponds. Yeah. But it's not that I don't like. I don't want to like, oh, he hates his 800-gallon tank. I'm just not sure it's my favorite tank at the moment. Like I got a lot of cool stuff to look at, and it probably changes every week of like, this thing's doing a thing. I love it, right? And if you're not, I feel like if you're not getting that continual change, that probably means I have one great aquarium and like 40 I should just get rid of. But if I'm continually, it's like saying, which one of your dogs do you love the most? If you clearly love one dog more than the others, it's like, oh, well, we should work on building a better relationship with my other dogs, right? So same thing with my aquariums. Like if I love one way, way, way more than the others, that's just a sign I need to work with my other aquariums more. Advice on a 40-gallon planted tank, multiple bettas. How many bettas? Yeah. How many bettas max? How many sponge filters? Top is covered with water lettuce and water hyacinth. I don't know that I can answer this question and be correct. Like no matter what I say, the odds of it being correct are very low. So in a 40-gallon planted tank, if it's a bunch of female bettas, you could probably have like 30 of them till they become egg-bound and die 14 months later, right? If they're male bettas, maybe you can have 12 of them because you overpopulate, they can't get territories, you'll feed enough, and that'll work. Or it'll be a bloodbath because you're going to have one betta that's more dominant, or you decided like, oh, I wanted a crown tail, I wanted a veil tail, I wanted a Dumbo ear, I wanted short tail, and and a king, and then you get like one short tail bettas is whooping up on all the other ones. Like there's so many variables there that it's impossible not to get the betta police on you going, you can't say that. I would say if it was me, all I can say is if it was me, I would only do one betta. Because betta sororities, like 100% of the time, fail in my experience. And everyone I've seen, they also fail. When it comes to males and female mixes, some breeders can do it, but most people don't like their fish to look all beat up. And they're very hard on each other, and you can pawn breed them. I've seen it done many, many times. So for me, it's one. But I think it's like a personal question of like, what do I want to tolerate? And I want to relax watching aquarium, and I don't want Thunderdome, which multiple bettas is always Thunderdome. Just like tons of gouramis is Thunderdome too. So that's what I got. I mean, it's not the answer you probably wanted, but that's what I think, honestly. I keep Australian freshwater turtles, and I run a little bit of salt all the time. Are there any plants I can scape that won't melt back? In theory, Anubias and Java Fern. Turtles can be pretty hard on them, so you might need to build a cage for them. But Anubias and Java Fern, and I'd try Bulbitis as well. You love these air stones behind me? Well, I hate them because they're already starting to clog up. How long have I had them? 5 weeks? No, 3 weeks? They're already, if I was to, like when I'm going to do a walk around tour of all the new fish I have, which is cool. But if I show you those air stones, you're going to be like, oh, dang, those things are like covered in algae, and yeah, the flow pattern's not nearly as good as it was, and I'm critical of it because they were $20 each. I'd hope for, I specifically bought the black ones, to kind of help, but the white disc is part of the problem. That's one of the reasons I love the Aquario version of air stones and CO2 diffuse, because they're that brown material. They don't grow algae nearly as fast. It's really nice. So, what's the best angelfish to take care of? Whatever color you like the most. I like blues. I like reds. I like a traditional silver. Yes. Ooh, I missed. Wait, yeah, I missed it. Matthew Vargas says, I have a 40 breeder with these 2 stingrays that aren't cutting it. Just looks dim, bluish in my tank, no pop in color. I want to purchase a 3.0 for your site. Well, I need 1 or 2. Lighting, I feel like all I'm saying tonight is, it depends on you. It depends on you. It's such a... But it really does. Like, some people want their tank to be super bright. Some people not so much. So much so that, like, we could maybe do a little test here. Like, on this aquarium right now, I have it full power, I believe. Let me take a look. I'm going to open up my Fluval app. Which you want a Fluval light anyway, so that's timely. That's how many Fluval lights I run. I run a lot of Fluval lights. Ooh, you can see the light, that LED light is lighting my face for the live stream. But the front right, okay, I can do that light. It is currently at 100% power. I used to run it. Let me get the setting I want. So these are all... I still want Fluval if you're listening, by the way, which you don't listen to me, but if you were listening, I still want a good way to share these settings, because I've got, they're standard ones, but then I've got Corey's preferred setup. Lower light preset, low light, half power, max time, early time. Like, I could share these with you. But I think, let's see, what's the lower light setup? Let's try that one. Did that do anything? Did we even see it change? I think I have to change more than just the one. Then the front left, we'll change that one to the low light, or the lower light preset. Go, yep. And this is the preset I was using in my fish room, actually. Let's see here, front right, front left, rear right. Export the lower light preset. See, okay, so this is a good example. You watched it dim down. I actually think the colors look better on the fish with the light being more dim. Right? Because I watched the oranges intensify. Now if I go back and I brighten that up in the back again, let's go to early time. I'll brighten it back up. You see how the brightness also brought more of this hazing? This is why I think it's a lighting issue I have with this tank. So lighting is very subjective. Like, is brighter better? The color's popping better? Do I want more light for the plants better? Right? So I'm going to leave this out because I have to fix my lighting before it'll drive me nuts, because it'll be on different times and blah, blah, blah. And so back to your original question of 1 or 2. I personally would only ever start with 1, because if 1 gives you what you wanted, glad you didn't buy 2, right? That being said, 1 will be more powerful than 2 stingrays by, I think it's about 30%. And it'll be a different shade of color. And, well, a different Kelvin rating. So it'll be slightly different. What I do like about this light is you can actually play with the colors. Like, if there was less than 4 lights there, I could do it and show you. But, oh man, if I was smart, I would have, like, made this look spooky for Halloween. Anyway. But you might want to dim it down, and maybe you're like, so right now your stingrays are too blue. Maybe you want to drop out all the blue. So for instance, on one of them that I had set, I didn't run any of the blues at all, actually, because I feel the same way. I don't want it that blue. I want these reds to pop. But I think you got to buy one and then just go from there and go, what do I like? Yeah, so low light looks better. So do know that I spent way too much time with this lighting. The lower the light in the aquarium, the more reflections you guys get. So it's like this weird balance I gotta find between my crazy looking hair from wearing headphones while editing and the light on the aquarium. So, you know, it's a battle. All right. What's a be good? What's a be good? What's a be good? What's a good beginner stem plant for a 10-gallon Bacopa? I wish I had like a mobile camera right now. I'd go show you my pond tubs. What I would recommend is these crazy long strings of words I'm about to say. Pogostemon stellatus octopus, one of our most sold plants, and then water sprite. Both those very easy. That's what I would recommend. All right. What's the tank? At the moment, you look and say, I need to change this up. So I've been doing a lot of change up in the fish room right now. For right now, it would be the catfish I brought back from Peru. I've never seen them eat. And this week I've been going through Rapashi and just different foods, and I'm not seeing them eat. I've lost 2 at this point. They didn't have like crazy thin stomachs or anything. There's wood in there. So what I'm thinking is I need to add some other fish to see if, are they too scared to eat? Do they want to feed on another fish's waste? I thought about adding not watermelon pleco. Come on, brain. Royal pleco. A royal pleco that likes to eat wood, so that maybe they want some of that wood fiber to eat on. Because part of the problem when you bring a species back that no one really knows, you don't know the best way to take care of it. And so even though like I'm reading up and looking how other lip brooders and that kind of stuff want to eat, they're not wanting to eat any of it. I've tried all these things, and so now I've also elevated the temperature. I'm trying a lot of things like, okay, what is the magic thing here? Because with these fish, we don't even know where they came from. I didn't get to collect them. So they were just at a wholesaler with like cool water. I have no idea. Did they come from very hot water? Did they come from cold water? I'm in the dark on it. So that's the one where I'm looking at it going, I need to change something if I do nothing else. So the first thing I did was I removed the Oscar that we caught in the wild from that tank. So, because I saw once the day before I removed him, he went after one of their tails, which they have a long tail, and I was like, ooh, that's some aggression. Maybe that's why they're not eating. Now it's been 4 or 5 days, still not seeing them eat, and so I'm going, I probably got to change something here. Like, what? So I thought about, I don't want, I was thinking like, okay, I could put like some guppies in there. Like, what could I put where they would eat, poop it out, not harass them at all? I thought maybe I could do cardinal tetras. I'm like, can they even eat enough for it to make sense? And I want something that'll eat off the bottom in case they don't eat. So when I put Rapashi in there, if they don't eat it, I want the guppies to eat it. But I don't want it to be like CORYDORAS that like eat it and they can't eat it, right? So it's just, I'm thinking about it. That's the tank I'm thinking about right now is how do I not kill these super cool catfish in front of the entire internet all at once? That's what I'm thinking about. All right. Which guppies would you put with a pearl gourami? I would do either endlers or like tiger endlers, something with short fins so they're nimble and can get away from pearl gouramis if they want to. Nothing very big and robust fin-wise. Plus, endlers in general can take a little bit lower pH, which the gourami would appreciate too. Best way to treat mouth rot. I recommend Maricin, which active ingredient is erythromycin, antibiotic. I would do that first. If you have a tank with no plants in it, do salt though. Salt will work wonders. So one of those two. Also, if you're out of the United States, pretty much you got to use salt. Yeah. Yeah, killing fish in front of the internet's never cool. Nope. That's the one thing that all YouTubers can commiserate about. Like, it could be a plane. A plane could land in this building and kill these goldfish. And someone would be like, see? That's why we don't keep fish tanks. Ha! What an idiot. Just going around killing fish. It's like, a plane hit my house. What do you expect? And yes, whether it's something jumping out, whether it's something getting killed, like things happen. It just in front of the entire internet, you'll always, you know, if there's a million people, well, we have a few million people watching every month. It only takes 3 of them to be not very nice. You're like, oh man, I am bad. He's right. You know, so you gotta like disconnect because it already sucks, right? Like your fish just died, and it's always your favorite one. Like even if you have 100 cardinal tetras, it's gonna be the coolest cardinal tetra that hops out or whatever it's gonna do, and then you gotta hear about it, and you're like, I know, I'm a horrible person. Thank you, I know, right? So it's hard. And that's what I don't want to do. So I'm trying. And that's the thing is, I'm not filming it all because I don't think it's, I mean, it's not that it's not useful content. I don't have time to film it all. But at the point, like, let's say these things starve out or I never figure it out. Let's say they die out. People are going to hold that against me forever. That's why we don't take fish out of the wild. Meanwhile, I know I'm like, I tried an insane amount to keep those things alive. Like, if anyone was trying to keep those things alive, it's me. The guy that's not on the internet, he could just be like, whatever. If they live, they make it. Trust me, I'm trying real hard to keep those things alive. Real hard. Dean and I are racking our brains, trying live foods, trying this, trying that. Like, why aren't they doing what they're supposed to be doing? Eat. And then, because their stomachs aren't super thin, maybe they are eating, but I'm sitting there at night watching with the lights out, getting my camera light out, like, can I see you? Are you eating right now? Right? Like, so it's not from a lack of trying and spying on them. All right. Would a Flue Ball Nano be highlight for a 10-gallon? Yeah, it would, but the problem is the way you mount it, because a 20-inch 10-gallon, the sides be lower light, but right underneath, yeah, very intense. What happened to Lamont? 2, what's the best way to breed hardy guppies? I've bred with no heater, no light, hardly any water changers, so far works. I would say you're on the right path to breeding hardy guppies. You know, submit them to abuse, if you will. And that is, you know, if they can live in that environment, they go to a better environment, they're definitely going to live. I have to sneeze, and that's why I'm pausing talking about Lamont, but it's not coming. All right, it's gonna come mid-sentence. What happened to Lamont? Lamont, the story of Lamont goes, it's a what is that? Not a haunted house story, a ghost story. Lamont came to work at Aquariumcoop, did a phenomenal job, amazing employee, very gifted artist. He's the one that did the Maboo Puffer shirt. We've got artwork in our house from him. He's very gifted in artwork. He then moved down to LA with his fiance, did artwork stuff there. His brother works on movies. They worked on that kind of stuff. They made a YouTube channel called Them Muds, which, in my opinion, has absolutely hilarious content. If you're into that, it's a very weird sense of humor. I'm going to pull it up and share it in the chat. I think it's mostly work friendly, but after the fact, like maybe watch it at home. And it's fun to 1, see my friend, and 2, watch him do stuff. That all happened, right? I'm going to share that right now. Boom. Then, they ended up getting married, having a kid, and moving back to Washington. All right, so now they're back in Washington. They've had a kid. His life's been wrapped up in having a kid. I want to say that kid's maybe 2 now. I don't know. You look at him and you go, yeah, you're about 2. And it's on my to-do list. Like, I literally have an app that's to-do list to re-engage with Lamont, in that I sent him a thing on Instagram. I was like, hey, we need to do lunch. I want to work on art projects. I'd love to work with you again. What are you looking like? And he was like, oh, I'm crazy busy right now. What about next week? And that was like 2 or 3 weeks ago now, because that happened like 2 days before we did Aquashelled and Aquatic Experience. And now I've probably been back for a week or 2. So now it's probably been like a month, which means I'm about 3 weeks late of saying, hey, you want to grab lunch this week? But I've been crazy busy working with the new hires and that kind of stuff. So the story, we're all the way to that point of the ball's in my court. I pray that if Lamont's listening, you're like, oh, send me a message and let's get lunch. But that's where we're at. So, yeah. And even still, we've got like another new, well, not necessarily a new employee, but we have another person coming for a trial on Monday at the warehouse. So, things are always kind of moving in our world, and yeah, I gotta remember to double down on some things like getting Lamont back, doubling down. All right, how's Murphy? Murphy's getting huge. He's hamming it up like always. He's a good little dude, good little buddy. I like him. Ooh, we got a new member. Thank you, Jamie Fife. Way to keep guppies and have attractive fry. Way to keep guppies and just cull anything you don't like. So raise them up. Hey, that one looks stinky. You're out. Maybe put them in a different tank, or maybe let them live with your turtles, or whatever you're going to do, right? Just keep culling the ones where you're like, you don't look as good. I don't like the way you look. I don't like the way you talk. Just keep removing them, and eventually you'll just have the master race of guppies. They'll also only use personal computers. That's a side joke to master race computers. Anyway. Warnings to look for before... Okay, warnings to look for before a Daphnia culture crashes. Usually what I look for is you've got insane amounts of Daphnia. That's when it's going to crash, because it exponentially, they give birth and have more, and they molt, and they molt, and they molt. So when that thing is teeming full of Daphnia, and you're like, look at this. I literally have had it to the point where I can harvest a pound of Daphnia a day. That's when you're on the verge of crashing, because you harvest a pound, you harvest a pound, you harvest a pound. Then you take the day off. You come back the next day, they're all dead. Like they hatched and they molted that much. So, yeah. Let them live with your turtle. Isn't that like death to the guppy? Yes, that is how I cull. If I'm going to get rid of a fish, instead of me killing it, I will put it with another fish that would be likely to eat it, or a turtle. And in some cases, like in my turtle tank, there's now thousands of fish that outbreed what those little turtles want to eat. So it doesn't always go to plan, but yes, that is the way I cull. And yes, it is a polite way of saying let it live with the turtle. Sometimes they live forever and they breed way too many fish, and sometimes they get eaten instantly. So... Ooh, Lisa, been a lurker for a long time? Well, welcome. Welcome. I may have missed a super chat. For sure. It's way too easy to miss super chats. I don't know which one I've missed. That makes it more difficult, because there is a laundry list of them, which means I get to buy tacos, which is cool, but it's easy to miss them, so I will try to not miss them. Usually my wife or Candy or someone's, saying, hey, you missed this one. I go, oh, all right, let me try it. My water notoriously fast of growing fungus on eggs. Lost thousands in this month alone. What could have caused this? Incorrect water parameters. Could be too hard of water. Could be not hard enough. Could be too high a pH, not high enough. Could be just too much bacteria in the water. This is typically like why people will always hatch eggs using methylene blue. So if you're not using methylene blue, could have a problem going there. Let's see. Corey, maybe get someone from the area you collected them to send you a piece of wood and some algae. Maybe you can use that to get them to start to eat something else. The problem is I didn't collect them. We bought them from an exporter. And I can guarantee you that exporter won't tell me where they collected it from, because that's their livelihood, or at least the person that collected them, their livelihood, right? So that's where we're kind of, between a rock and a hard place. All right. So my wife says, I told you above, love, and she said I missed ultra limited edition super chat. I believe I've already addressed ultra limited edition super chat, but let me go up because, yeah, it says, what's the beginner stem plant for a 10-gallon? I went into the whole diatribe about my ponds, Pocostemoselatus octopus, water sprite. Unless there's another one from them that I'm not seeing, which has happened. I'm not past that, but I have answered that one. Unless there's like another one from him like way up top, which I don't see. So I'm going to the bottom. Corey, would it be alright if I provide a 2 milliliter sample of Easy Green with mangrove orders? I'd let people know where to buy it, and I wanted to ask me first. On the surface, yes, I don't care at all. There could be like some other like technical thing why we wouldn't. Like I inherently I'm like, yes. By all means, if you buy stuff from me, yes, right? But then there could be like, oh, did you know Easy Green's getting shipped around the country in an unlabeled vial that's causing problems? Like, whoa. So, off the cuff, yeah, that sounds logical. Let's do that. Long term, if any kind of hubbub arises, like, whoa, we got to stop that, right? I mean, I'm glad that you enjoy using it. I'm glad that you want to send it out with the orders and that you would refer them to us. All of that I'm on board with, and I thank you for that. I just want to make sure none of us get into like this weird trouble, because trust me, I've gone through plenty of trouble shipping fertilizer. It's not easy. Are there going to be Black Friday deals like last year where every week of November was a deal? Need to get the deal on those 3.0s. Ha ha! Yes, there will be a deal every week. In fact, you may have noticed there was a deal last week, and there is a deal this week. And there will be a deal next week, too. And the week after that. And the week after that. I don't know how far we are down the road, but then probably another deal after that. I think, and this is legit, I think I have a sale planned for every week until the end of the year, roughly. Now, that being said, don't wait, because, like, Flu Wall 3.0s, there's no dedicated sale plan to them. So if you're just waiting for nothing. Unfortunately, with the tariffs going up and all that kind of stuff, there's no deals to be had on 3.0s anymore. If we're being 100% honest, we are considering dropping selling lights and heaters altogether because of the burden on customer service, and we don't really make money selling them anymore. So it's one of those things of like, how much money do we want to not make to make the hobby better? And we're willing to lose some money. Don't get me wrong. Like, ask my employees. I'm good at giving our money away. But it is on the block of like, we're not even making money on this. January 1st, shipping rates go up again. That literally might put us in the negative. Like each light we sell. Like with the heater, when that shipping increase goes, we literally would lose money. Like, oh, you bought a heater? Great, we lost $3. Thanks. You know, and that's just a bad place to be, because then it's like, oh, your heater had a problem. Oh, let's send out another one. Like now we're negative $60. But we don't necessarily just want to drop these things because we think they're important. We still love the products, so that we're torn of like, you know, and then we're also afraid that if we charge the right price on the heater we need to not lose money, then we look like we're expensive, you know, and part of it is, like, I think on kensfish.com, they've got the same heater we sell for $55 listed at $42.99. And then, like, you add to the cart, it's $10 shipping. Like, okay. You know, but that makes us look bad. If people don't look into it, they're like, oh, look at them. It's getting paid. Like, we have free shipping, right? Like, you click and add to your cart. Because it's over $49, it's automatically free shipping. So that's why there probably won't be deals on 3.0s. Because, honestly... there's no deal to be had at the moment, which all we can hope is that the tariffs go away. Then all of a sudden it's like, yeah, we don't lose money anymore. And then that maybe shipping won't go up. Like this will be the third shipping increase by USPS. And when I say USPS, everyone else does it too. In 2 years, right? So it'll be the third one in 2 years. Like, oh, it's getting brutal. It's just chipping away at margins. And I think you'll see a very big shift next year, and most people won't have free shipping at like $50 now. It'll be like, oh, it's $65 for free shipping now. Because every time something like that happens, when our costs go up, more products have to be sold to make up the margin, right? Like otherwise we're just losing money. So I think across a lot of platforms, that's why you see if you don't have an Amazon Prime account, you're like, dang, $35 to get free shipping now. Because they've they have the same problem we do. So, all right. Okay, we're still good on time. I was freaking out. We might have been encroaching on John's time. I've learned a lot from you and love to continue to learn. We'll be up in your neck of the woods next year. Def gonna stop by the shop. Well, thank you, Soft Embrace. I appreciate that. By next year, yeah, it'll just be the same shop. We want to expand eventually, like just to get Murphy a bigger tank. I don't know how soon it can happen though. Did I ever do a what fish go in a 20 long video? Not specifically for a 20 long. I've got the 20 high, but there's not that many more fish that are eligible for a 20 long that aren't eligible for a 20 high. Also, 20 long fits right in between 20 high and 29, and I've done both of those videos. So it's like this, a lot of overlap on the fish. Watching for years, love your knowledge. I keep having white spot outbreak on the tank that looks like, hold on. I keep having a white spot outbreak in the tank like bubble snowflakes. They twitch when disturbed. Any ideas? Let me think here. White spots in the tank looks like bubble snowflakes. And they twitch when disturbed. This is like a fish mystery thing. I think what you're describing could be Hydra. Google what Hydra are, and then you can go, oh, yeah, that's exactly what I mean. Or, nope, it's not that. And then in which case, I feel like I need some more details, because I'm having a hard time. So is it like a bubble on something that looks like a snowflake, and then if you touch it, it moves? That seems crazy. In which case, I haven't seen that. So yeah, someone says egg, someone says Hydra. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, but it's hard without a picture. So yeah, I don't know. All right. What happened to the archer fish? They went to the store and they might be sold off by now. They were living in one of the ponds, but they were such voracious eaters, and I'd kind of had my fill of it, and I wanted to do something different. It was really limiting what I could put in there because they would just dominate the food so hard. And the problem is I didn't have the right tank. So 800 gallons was too big of a tank because I wanted to add other fish, and then a 125, I think it's too small for that big group. So I needed like a 210 or a 180, and that would have been great for those, except I don't have any of those. And I filled up all my space with other tanks. So I thought, let's find someone else who loves these fish. And we moved them on. All right. Starting my first Aquascape 60-gallon cube that I wanted at the Aquatic Experience, do I need to have an air stone for livestock along with the CO2? Great meeting you and the wife. So technically, no, you don't have to have an air stone. That would depend on how many fish and how much CO2 and all that kind of stuff. That being said, I would have an air stone, set it at a low flow. It doesn't need to be boiling, just a little bit. Just a little bit to keep that oxygen level up at night when plants are going to consume oxygen and release CO2. So here's what I would do personally. On a 60-gallon cube, I would get a USB air pump and a Zis air stone and just let that thing slowly keep it oxygenated for you. I wouldn't go anything crazy. Ah, yes. When I said buy a hoodie and a shirt, get a free Easy Green, you have to use the coupon code FREEEASY, which Candy is really good at her job, and she's been helping people with that. So good. I think it's on the website as well, but I'm bad at advertising my own. I'm really good at getting you guys to buy other people's stuff. I'm really bad at getting you to buy my stuff. I don't know, because I guess I devise a plan, how am I going to get people to buy this thing? Yeah, let's do that. And then on my stuff, I'm like, oh yeah, buy it. I mean, I guess buy it or not, don't. Yeah, oh yeah, there's a code, I think. Someone help, Am I ever going to do raffles again? Those were fun. No, unfortunately, they've been ruined forever because of people turning us into the Attorney General calling it gambling. Yes, and it's actually another small YouTuber that will remain unnamed that goes on without anyone knowing it, but they're the ones that ruined it for everyone. So that's why I no longer give anything away. Ha! It's impossible for me to give stuff away without someone going, you can't do that. You can't just be giving stuff away. You know, like literally, we live in a world now where, like, do you guys see this? Domino's got sued because there's no way for someone who's blind to place an order through their website. Now, I get it. If you're blind and you want Domino's pizza, and for some reason all you have is access to a computer, I'd be bummed out too. But you could call them and order a pizza. That's another way you could do it. And the kind of the same thing here, like, because like if I do a comment thing, if I say like you have to be subscribed, that is like an entry form that would break the law. If I say you have to leave a comment, I believe that might be true as long as there's like no other strings attached. It's so easy to break a quote-unquote gambling law, and then we're running into problems with, well, that's considered gambling in the state of Tennessee. Like, okay, I have no idea what the gambling laws in Tennessee are. You know, like I'm in Washington, right? So we just put the kibosh and said, no more. We cannot send things out based on randomness at all, and it made everything worse, but it made us safer and not have to answer to the Attorney General, which is very stressful, by the way, because we've never lost a case or anything. They're like, oh yeah, yes, you are in trouble, but you're not in trouble. You know, that's kind of how it goes down of like, we're taking this very serious. You're fine. You know, it's one of those deals of like, we're filling out the paperwork. Just make sure you check this box. We reviewed the material. We clearly saw this was not your mad money-making scheme of your illegal gambling ring. You know, it's... Yes. And that's why I can't offer extra freebies to members, because you have to pay $5. Like, there's just all these rules that I just want hands off. We don't random anything off anymore ever. And I really loved it because it was fun to come up with little games. So, Jeff Schwanke, new member, thank you. Madison Paul, what fish is best for eating pest snails in a 29-gallon community tank besides pea puffers? There's so many. I would get yourself a little pack of dwarf chain loaches, because not only are they going to eat those snails for you, they are going to become your new favorite fish because they're crazy, they're zany, and they're fun. I recommend at least 3, but do yourself a favor and get 6. I know they're going to be like 12 to 15 bucks. That's spendy. I know. But they're going to be great fish and you're going to love them. So I would recommend dwarf chain loaches. Matthew asks, for L134s, which are leopard frog plecos, is it okay to buy one, or do I need a colony like you did, adding them to a community tank 40-gallon that houses an L264 and a super red? Is the 264 the Sultan? Let me think. L264 pleco is the Sultan, yeah. No, you can do just one. Keep them hot. Feed them a lot of meat. You know, meat-based foods. Like, they're not just algae eaters. But no, you can get a little bit of squabbling for territory if you don't have enough caves. Just keep an eye on them. Make sure, like, oh no, he's beating on the Sultan or vice versa or anything like that. But no, you can keep them as a one of. Yeah. All right. Natasha Brandt, new member, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, laughing. I swear if Corey named the YouTuber, he'd be undone because we'd go to war. That's exactly, as my wife said, that's exactly why I wouldn't name them. Just because someone wants to hurt me doesn't mean I retaliate by hurting others. Like, I usually look at a situation, I've got nothing to gain from it, so I don't do it. Like, if I was like, oh man, I can't think of what we gain, but like, oh, financially, it's amazing. Like, even then, I wouldn't sell someone out for money. Like, that's not the right move either. But, yeah, it's just gonna remain in like no man's land of like, the people that know are like, oh, that guy or girl, you know. Madison says, thank you. I was considering yo-yo loaches, but apparently whether they eat snails is hit or miss for people. Yo-yo loaches are pretty good, but like I filmed an unboxing today, by the way. In the unboxing I filmed, I did remind people like yo-yo loaches can get 6-8 inches. Like they can get like that big around and like that. So in a 30-gallon, all of a sudden you're going, whoa, that is not what I signed up for. Where these dwarf chain loaches, oh, they're so cute and cuddly, and they love to eat snails. Like, I love these things. A lot of times what you can find is like these big loaches, they get bigger. They don't want to waste their time with a tiny snail. So right-sized fish to right-sized snail. Smaller loaches, besides like koi loaches, are usually better at eating snails because they can get up in that shell, right? So that's what I find. My brain, catch up here. I have what appears to be tumors on a few neon tetras in a 100-gallon fully planted tank. Velvet mollies are all fine. Any thoughts? Could be the start of like neon tetra disease, or out of 100 animals, 2 are just gonna have tumors. You know, out of 3 dogs, Sassy the Destroyer, she had more tumors than anyone needed. That's why we had them all removed. But I think it's just an odds thing. Like 1 out of 50 having a tumor? That seems logical. Dojo loaches are illegal in Oregon? That's true. They're legal in Washington, though. And piranha are illegal in Oregon. Or are legal there, but illegal here. Like, there's a bunch of weird fish that can't go back and forth. So, yeah. All right. I didn't know. I didn't realize how weird it would be to hear my name out loud. What's my favorite cleanup crew for a 10-gallon planted tank with just a betta? Oh no, Natasha. You're going to make me ruin a video I'm doing. So I'll just name a bunch of them. But I have a video coming out that is my top 5 algae eaters that all live together in a 10-gallon. And bigger tanks too. But I specifically made a video because I really have a group of stuff that really works well together. So let me read the question again. Cleanup crew. Oh, this is a cleanup crew, so not necessarily algae. The cleanup crew, I would probably hit up some panda CORYDORAS. I would probably do some Malaysian trumpet snails. I would do, what else would I do? From the unboxing today, I was saying how I want to see red lizard whiptail cats again. Those things were cool. So I recommend one of those also. There's got to be more that I can think of. Reticulated hillstream loach, I like those. It's kind of more of an algae eater. Koi loaches, those are guys, good little scavengers. Will I ever ship fish? Ever is a hard thing. The odds are very unlikely, though. We have a video on the Corey McElroy channel, which, by the way, I haven't talked about that in probably a year and a half on this thing. I've been doing videos. That's right, I've been cheating on you guys. I do videos over on my business channel, Corey McElroy. That's my name. Don't wear it out. And I was live yesterday. I was testing out some audio stuff we were doing here. And I talked about being an influencer. And I talk about business stuff. So if you're into that, and surprisingly, a lot of people are enjoying the content over there, even though they're not into business. Because I think they like hearing the behind-the-scenes stuff about Aquarium Co-op. I think. So I think that's why they enjoy it. But it's just like this format. It's mostly live streams. You could check that out if you wanted to. If not, no harm, no foul. It's just something I do. I put out something like once every 2 weeks or so. Like, it's not a super regular thing. And it went like 18 months without anything. So, you know, I make no promises over there in business land. Live stream thingy. Autos or plecos for a community tank, planted, or both. Also, suggestions. Love zero plecos, but not the price. Yeah. I would have told you to get a leopard frog pleco, but they've gone up in price. So I don't think there is a good replacement for those without paying some serious cheddar. As far as autos or plecos, I would do one of the two. I would lean towards the autos, like a group of 3 of them. With both, you're going to run out of food for the autos. The plecos will eat normal food. The autos are really hard to get onto that, so I would avoid that. What's the best advice I can give for a new aquarium store owner? I was giving someone some tough love just the other morning. Like, you have to remember, you're there to sell what the customer wants, not for you to sell what you want the customer to buy. And so, like, this one gentleman was saying, my store is kind of going out of business. I don't know what to do because all the products that we sell, I don't believe in because I don't think people need. Like, they even said fish food. Fish food is high dollars for not a lot of nutrition. And then they also said, like, I can't remember what other products, and I was trying to tell them, like, you need to figure out how you can change your perception of these products so that you can sell them to the customer. So I tried to explain that, like, dog owners love to buy treats for their dogs. We, the owner, get enjoyment out of feeding our dog and them going, oh, look at it, they love it, they're dancing for it. Oh, I love my dogs, right? Speaking of dogs, I hear one right here. Tinky, come here. Come here. Oh, if we only had treats for Tinky, right? Do you like treats? And so if we know that dog owners love to feed treats, right?
Look who's coming. You gotta call her.
Sassy, come here, Sass. Sassy. She can't hear me is the problem. She's deaf.
Come on. Come on.
We love to feed our fish, and we want to try different foods. We're always looking for the next best treat, right? And if we look at it from, do my dogs need to eat treats? Well, no, they don't to live, but that's part of my enjoyment. Here's Sassy in her taco costume. That's right. So, while no one on the planet needs to own a Chihuahua-sized taco costume, we have purchased one. You would say, if you were a dog store, you might say, oh, why would I ever carry that? No one needs that. Yet, I bought it, and that helped keep them in business. Although, we probably ordered this on Amazon. That's probably...
We didn't.
Okay, I don't know where we got it.
We do need it.
Yes, and we do need it. But that's the advice is, remember, you're there, when they ask a question, help them solve their problem with what you have in the store, or send them elsewhere if you don't have it. But don't teach them how to keep aquariums like you keep them. Teach them how to keep the aquariums how they want to keep them. If they want to keep, a tank with no light on it, then help them do that. If they want the next best aquascape, help them do that. Remember, they came to you for advice, not for you to just run their hobby. And that's what I think, we forget. So that's why I have to believe in all the products I sell. I don't have to use them all. I don't have to, them all be my favorites. We might sell 60 different foods, but 5 of them are my favorites. But I can have use cases. Like, I brought home 2 new foods today. I brought home Rapashi Community, and I brought home Hikari Sinking Carnivore Pellets, because I want to try them on those catfish I'm having a hard time getting them to eat. So in that use case, those are now needed for me, which I haven't fed those foods in probably over a year at this point, but now I need them again because my fish situation changed. So that's the thing to remember. Help them solve their problem, not just tell them what the answer is.
You have reticulated Hillstream loaches, isn't that right?
Yeah, there's one. Why?
That dude's going nuts on the clogged up Airstone.
Yeah, he's cleaning it for me.
That's the one positive.
Yeah.
Should I take her?
Yeah, she's all shaky and I don't like to be here, Dad.
Come on, baby.
So, have we got any trick-or-treaters yet?
Yeah, we got 3.
3?
Yeah.
Woohoo! 3 candy bars. Oh, wait. Do they take chips or candy bars?
None of the candy bars you like.
But they took...
Some chips, some candy bars, and some Play-Doh.
We're giving away Play-Doh?
Yeah.
Oh. Did anyone choose the 3 Musketeers or the Mars bar or whatever we had?
No.
Yeah, no one chooses that. I'm going to end up having
I don't
to,
think most kids know what those are.
Yeah. Well, they know enough to know they're terrible.
You didn't redo this yet?
No, apparently not. I got to put that on the to-do list. All right. We've got 5 minutes left. I got to hammer these out. If I remove filtration, including the giant wall, that comes with my Fluval Flex 32, what would you put in it? It's so hard to clean in the back chamber. Yeah, that is true. It basically becomes like a 33 long at that point. So I would just do I just do Planet Guppy tanks. I'm such a simple guy. It always looks good and I always love it. So, yeah. I've missed a super chat from Yeah Crazy. My Pogostemon Salatus gets long and leggy and 20 long with Stingray, gets algae. Short in the light, gets more leggy. Longer, gets more string algae. Yes, so less light. Gotta get taller to get more light. What's happening there is you're not in balance. So I can see that you changed light both ways. Did you change fertilizer both ways? Because lighting and fertilizer have to move in sync, right? You always want 20 parts per million nitrates in there. And if you dial back lighting, you got to dial back nitrates. Because what probably happened, or could have happened, you dial back light. Oh, it's getting long. You're building up nutrients. Let's try more light. Let's try more light. Oh, now it's like more light. Oh, and there's all these nutrients. And now we got algae too, right? So I think you just got to work on it, massage it a little bit more. And yeah, but it is pretty freely plant. But if you're getting a lot of algae, look into how many hours. I would say 10 to 12 is right. And then keep nitrates at 20 parts per million. And then maybe you got to go with a couple algae eaters, but you should be able to dial it in. It's not too tricky to dial in of plants. All right. Can you feed frozen every day brine shrimp, cyclops, bloodworms? You can, but I recommend never more than 6 times a week. And I think the perfect balance is 4 times frozen, 3 times dry. Even though I can't sell you frozen food, I do believe that to be true. Even I don't follow that rule anymore. I used to always follow that rule in the store. But now I'm using a lot of dry foods on the auto feeders, and then I'm trying to feed frozen in addition to that every day. So, ponds. Pros and cons of gravel versus coarse sand. I can go either way. I really like gravel. I haven't had gravel in a long time. I've got coarse sand back there. I think it holds more gunk, and I am a person that loves to gravel vac. I gravel vac just yesterday even. So I really enjoy that process. So heavier gravel, I like it more. It's like, ooh, this is really nice, pulling up a lot of gunk out of here. Whereas fine gravel, or coarse sand lets everything kind of sit towards the top. And I don't know, it looks different. And it's better, like these goldfish can't choke on it, which is nice. But I do prefer a gravel, I do. Sassy for the win! Yes, also love Dorcula's dress. Yeah, she dressed up as, I think, a 50s housewife. It's got the poof and everything. Thanks for the great channel and my other channel. Thank you, Ginger. How do I buy floating plants from you? Not on the site. We don't sell any because they don't ship very well. So that's why we're not selling them. I want to start breeding guppies for certain things, and I like plants, so sell them to me. In my opinion, must change that alarm. In my opinion, no one's selling good floating plants. We've tried. I've ordered from other places. They come in bad too. And until we figure it out, we're not willing to sell any. That being said, I just thought of a way, so I'm going to try it. But like I was thinking about today, in fact, I don't like to sell anything when the defective rate is above 5%. Like, that's my own internal threshold of like 5% of people are complaining, 5% are arriving dead, 5%, like whatever it is, like above 5%, I start going, there's a better way to do this. We just haven't figured it out yet. Like, this is not acceptable, right? And so that's why we used to, but we would get too many people that would have them overcook in their mailbox or freeze to death. But I've got an idea now, because I know what was going wrong. And so if I find time, which, is unlikely, I'll see if I can develop the right packaging to make it work. Yeah, it's a hard one because the leaves don't like to get wet and that kind of stuff. It's really easy to overheat or get too cold because you can't use any water, right? You can't hold the temperature with the water. And yeah, and there's also typically not a lot of money to be made, right? Like, oh, I'm only willing to pay like $5. Like, well, at $5, there's not a lot. Like, oh, I gotta develop a special shipping method. All right, well, it is 6 o'clock, and you know what that means. It is time to go over to KG Tropicals, right? He does a live stream after us. I'm gonna go raid the candy, or see if my dinner's ready. My dinner's candy. No, there's a legit dinner. The code word today we're going to go with is taco dog. Code word taco dog. In honor of Sassy, of course. I'm going to head over there. I'll have it on my phone as I go figure out what dinner is, and maybe I'll be inside while my wife hands out candy, or maybe I'll come back here, settle in, and get to typing. So, taco dog, we're going to the other side. And one last super chat. What to replace the filtration in the Flue Ball Flex 32 that cut out the back? I would run a sponge filter. Although I'd make sure it's towards the back because the lights are inside on the hood and I don't want that to splash up on there all the time. So, taco dog it is. We'll see you next week. Taco dog. Taco dog. I just got to find the button now. I was all ready to taco dog. Ah, there's the button. Thank you all.